Hit that subscribe button, guys, for the latest in boxing. Now, I hope somehow, some way, this video reaches Deontay Wilder. Because this is a video that I made specifically for Deontay Wilder to listen to, so that he could understand how some, if not most, of his fans feel about him being as, a champion. This isn't a, Deontay Wilder hating video, or, me trying to diminish Deontay Wilder's accomplishments, although it's probably going to come across as that to Deontay Wilder fanboys. But I'm really not trying to diminish Deontay Wilder as a professional fighter. But I want Deontay Wilder to understand why some boxing fans feel the way they feel when it comes to him as a champion. I feel that it is really remarkable how Anthony Joshua progressed way faster and pretty much surpassed Deontay Wilder in terms of his career and the way his, the path that Anthony Joshua went. I remember 3 years ago when Deontay Wilder first won his WBC belt. I saw Deontay Wilder face Bermane Stiverne on January 17th, 2015. I saw it live. I remember seeing it live when he won the belt. And I remember that was a big deal because at the time Wilder had about 30-odd fights, and he had fought nobody that was, considered a live opponent up to that date. Bermane Stiverne was considered his first live opponent. And so when Deontay Wilder went in there and he outboxed Bermane Stiverne and he won basically every round and he became a champion, that was a big deal. I remember at the time Anthony Joshua had about 9 professional fights. He had already turned pro. I believe he turned pro late 2013. AJ, if I'm not mistaken. But I remember at the time when Wilder won the belt, his first WBC belt, AJ was basically a prospect. He was basically at the level of where Josh Kelly is right now. He had about, like I said, 9 fights. I think less than 10 fights. And that was 3 years ago. That was 3 years ago, and a lot of things happened in 3 years. In those 3 years, Anthony Joshua went on to, win a couple of British level belts, but then he went on to win the IBF strap. Then he went on to win the IBO strap. Then he went on to win the WBA strap. And last night, 2 nights ago, he won the WBO strap. So in the last 3 years, AJ has gone on to win 4 belts at heavyweight, and Deontay Wilder has not progressed since then. He's just been defending his belts. The same WBC belt he won in 2015, on January 17, 2015, he's been defending that same belt for the past 3 years, about 38 months now, almost 40 months. Meanwhile, AJ has won several belts, like I mentioned earlier, the IBO, IBF, WBA, and now WBO. So it's kind of like sad, if you really think about it. It's kind of sad that AJ, a guy that when Wilder won his belt had just 9 fights, has completely leapfrogged Deontay Wilder in terms of how many belts he's won. He's just completely leapfrogged Wilder. Wilder has just stayed in one spot. He won the belt and he's just stayed there. He hasn't progressed. Normally when fighters win belts, their goal is to, win other belts and fight other champions. Terrence Crawford is a perfect example of this. When Terrence Crawford won his first belt at 140, did he spend 3 years defending his belt? No. He went on to fight every other champion in the division at 140. Why? Because he was trying to become the unified champion. And what happened? He became the unified champion. Terence Crawford didn't spend 3 years defending one belt. He elected to fight the other champions because he wanted to prove that he was the #1 guy at 140, and he did it. And he was, in my opinion, the #1 guy at 140 up until he moved up. I would still consider him the #1 guy had he not, moved up to 140. That is the path that AJ is taking. AJ is taking the path that Terence Crawford took. When he won that IBF strap, he didn't just spend 2 years defending it. He went on to fight other champions to win their belts. Now he has 3 out of the 4 major belts. There's only 1 belt left. Deontay Wilder's belt, which is WBC. So that's what me as a boxing fan, kind of feel turned off when it comes. That's what turns me off basically when it comes to Deontay Wilder is Deontay Wilder. I want to be a fan of him. I want to root for him, but why is he not progressing in his career? It's like he's not progressing in his career. He's had that WBC belt around his waist for 3 years, and he hasn't attempted to unify. Say what you want about this guy ducking him, but how come Wilder's not unifying, but AJ has been unifying? Why is AJ able to unify with Joseph Parker? Why is AJ able to unify with, Vladimir Klitschko? Why is it that AJ is able to unify with these guys, but Wilder is not able to unify with these guys? There's always these excuses, but at the end of the day, results speak for themselves. And when AJ fights these guys to unify with them, guess what? Those are results. He's actually fighting them, and he's beating them, and he's taking their belts. As opposed to Wilder's just going around saying everybody's ducking him. And again, I'm not sitting here and saying that nobody's ducking Deontay Wilder. I'm sure there's several people ducking Deontay Wilder. But for people to say that every single person at heavyweight is ducking Deontay Wilder, and that's why he couldn't become champion. Because I've seen people saying, Joseph Parker ducked Deontay Wilder, Vladimir Klitschko ducked Deontay Wilder, Anthony Joshua ducked Deontay Wilder. Basically, people are saying that everybody who's a heavyweight, who's a champion, is ducking Deontay Wilder, and therefore that's why he could never become undisputed champion. That's the excuse that a lot of these Deontay Wilder fanboys say. Again, I'm not saying that that isn't the case. That I'm not saying that there isn't a heavyweight that isn't ducking him, but to say every heavyweight is ducking Deontay Wilder, I think is absolutely ridiculous. Again, if that's the case, why weren't every heavyweight ducking Anthony Joshua? Anthony Joshua is also a big puncher. He's also a threat, right? So if everybody was afraid to fight Deontay Wilder and that's why they ducked him, why wouldn't everybody also be afraid to fight AJ when he's also a threat? He's also a big puncher. Why wasn't Vladimir afraid to fight AJ? Why wasn't, Parker afraid to fight AJ? Even Dominic Brazil. Why weren't these guys, Dillian White, why weren't these guys afraid to fight AJ? Because they were willing to fight him, and AJ made the fight happen, right? When it comes to Wilder, a lot of these fights just don't happen, and I think that's what turns off a lot of boxing fans when it comes to Wilder. They want to respect him, they want to give him credit, but when they see that this guy has just been defending his one belt for years, and when they see another guy like AJ from across the pond, basically progressing much quicker than him and actually unifying, it's kind of a turnoff as if you're a Deontay Wilder fan, because it's like, man, look at all these dudes. Look at this dude just surpassing Deontay Wilder, and Deontay Wilder is he's stagnant. He's just staying right there, and he's not progressing as a professional fighter. He's not progressing at all. It's like, what the fuck, It would be like if, say right now, Mikey Garcia is a champion at 140, right? Let's say Mikey Garcia doesn't. Let's say the guy who just beat Julius Ndongo. I believe his name is Regis. I totally forgot his last name. Was it Pro something? But I believe his first name is Regis. You see, Regis is not a champion, right? But right now, Mikey Garcia is a champion. Let's say within the next 2 years, Regis goes on to fight every other champion at 140, and he wins he wins 3 out of the 4 major belts in the next 2 years. And then, like, say Mikey Garcia is still holding on to his belt that he won against Sergey Liptinus. You get what I'm saying? Right now, people are looking at somebody like Regis as a prospect. Okay, he beat Julius Ndongo, but he really hasn't done anything in his career. But imagine if 2 years from now, he has 3 out of the 4 major belts, and Mikey Garcia still just has his first belt. People are going to be like, man, look at how when Mikey Garcia first won his belt, Regis was just a prospect who just beat Julius Ndongo. Now he's, a unified champion. And he's gone this far. Or that would be like if, for example, Demetrius Bivol comes along and beats all the other champions at 175. And meanwhile, what's his name? Sergey Kovalev isn't unifying. He just continues defending his belt, continues defending his WBO heavyweight strap. Meanwhile, Demetrius Bivol fights every other champion at 175, and he becomes, he beats the winner of Bada Jack versus, Adonis Stevenson. He beats all the other champions at 175 in the next 15 months. Meanwhile, Sergey Kovalev just keeps defending his WBO strap. You're going to be looking at that like, man, I remember Sergey Kovalev, when Sergey Kovalev, won his WBO strap again against Chimbransky. Demetrius Bivol was just, a prospect, and now look at him. He has 3 out of the 4 belts. Why is he progressing faster than someone like Sergey Kovalev, you see? So I believe this is how a lot of boxing fans feel when it comes to Deontay Wilder. Is they see that fighters are progressing faster than you, Deontay Wilder. Like, all I ask, and again, this, I'm not saying that because fighters are progressing faster than Deontay Wilder, that Deontay Wilder can't beat Anthony Joshua. I've said many a times that Deontay Wilder can certainly beat Anthony Joshua. Anthony Joshua is no immortal god. I believe he's a flawed fighter. I've seen weaknesses in him. I'm not one of these fans that are fanboys of boxers like a lot of Joshua fanboys are. I see the flaws in Joshua. This isn't me saying that, Wilder can't beat Joshua. Wilder can certainly beat Joshua. But what I'm saying is this is just like a perspective of like how a boxing fan feels when it comes to Deontay Wilder as champion. I really hope, Deontay Wilder, if you watch this video, I really hope that you don't have us waiting for years. Boxing fans have already been waiting and watching you defend your WBC belt for 3 years. That's a long fucking time, man. 3 years. So don't make us wait another 3 years just for you to get in the ring with, AJ. Make that fight happen as soon as possible. Because that's what, you want to win. You want to make fighters, you want to shut everybody up. Fight AJ and knock him out. If you knock him out, you will have every single belt. AJ is the only man who is preventing you from becoming undisputed champion. All you would have to do is knock out Anthony Joshua, and you would have every belt around your waist. You will be the #1 heavyweight, and everybody who's been teasing you for, your resume or, the fact you've only have 1 belt for the past 3 years, all those guys would have to bow down. Even if you lose 9, even if you're losing the fight against AJ, if you manage to knock him out, they're going to have to bow down because you have all the belts. So that's all I have to say, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed. Wilder, if you watched the video, hope you listen to what I have to say. Hope you think about it. And subscribe for daily boxing videos, guys. I'm out. Thanks for watching.